as facilitator or moderator, I have a number of questions that I'm going to ask, kind of prime the pump and get the conversation going, but I very much, we very much, all of us want this to be a dialogue with you all, because really the intent behind this is that we share ideas and that you learn about the innovative things that these folks are doing up here to achieve the end that we just talked about. So I have questions, they're broad questions, but if you want to ask any follow-ups, please feel free to chime in and do so. So what I'll do is I'll start off by asking each of the folks to introduce themselves and to say a few words broadly about what the initiative they're associated with, what it does, how it works. We'll go through that quickly, and then we'll get into more of the cybersecurity aspects of that, how that's being developed within each of these initiatives and other things. So let's start with Tammy.
Hello, my name's Tammy Pierman. I'm on the board of directors of the Computer Science Teachers Association. I apologize, I still have candy in my mouth.
You're pretty good.
Yeah,
that lasts a long time.
I am the K-12 coordinator for business and computer science at Springfield Township School District in Montgomery County, Pennsylvania. And I'm here really to talk about Computer Science Teachers Association and what we're up to. So Computer Science Teachers Association is actually international, but we have 21,000 members internationally. About 16,000 of those members are in the United States. And they represent people teaching computer science or related fields in the K-12 environment, or secondary and industry people who are interested in supporting that effort. So that's really what we're about. So our major products, we produce a set of standards, K-12 computer science standards, which everybody got. That's this. I should have gotten that in your little.
Beautiful.
Yes, okay. They are currently under review. Standards are only, of course our field changes so quickly, we need to take a look at our standards every few years to make sure they're still up to date. So if anybody would like to provide input on the K-12 standards, the input period is still open, and you can look that up. We also, we have an annual conference. We provide professional development for computer science teachers. And probably one of our biggest things, though, is we create opportunities for networking. We bring the K-8 teacher in touch with the middle school or high school teacher. We bring the high school teacher in touch with the community college and college teacher. We sort of kind of try and build those vertical relationships.
Great. Brian?
My name is Brian Taylor. I'm a high school teacher in Howard County Public School System. I work at the Applications of Research Lab, also known as the ARL. I'm part of the Cybersecurity Networking Academy. There are 2 teachers that teach CompTIA A+, Security Plus, and Cisco Networking, part of Net Academy. Our facility is a centralized career academy, so we have students from the other schools in Howard County bused to our facility, juniors in the morning for an hour, seniors in the afternoon for alternating 3 hours to an hour. And so I guess I'm here today to talk about my program and also to learn how to integrate more cybersecurity components. So far, our senior year, we both teachers, we converge towards Security Plus, and we engage in cybersecurity competitions in the senior year, notably Cyber Patriot. I'm pretty new to teaching in general. This is my 3rd year teaching high school. I also work as an adjunct for Howard County Community College for computer repair. My fellow teacher at the ARL was recently replaced last year, so I have a new teacher to work with, and she's great. Her name's Stacy Purdom. And so our academy is in a state of transition, and we're just looking to get more ideas to see how we can expand.
My name's Dominic Jandomenico. I'm with an organization called Project Lead the Way. We serve more than 1 million students currently nationwide, and our goal is pretty simple. We want to prepare America's students for the global economy. But for us, that means we provide K-12 education services to schools. We are a nonprofit organization, and we help schools by providing kind of a holistic STEM solution through activity and project-based learning. That means we have, a curriculum that we have developed with experts, and you can meet a few of them here. My colleagues Bennett Brown and Carol Kennard are here at the conference. They're not in this room, unfortunately, but if you have a chance to talk to them, I encourage you to do so. They help develop our curriculum and really keep that ongoing, continuous development of our academic program. We also provide professional development for our teachers, which is, I think, one of the biggest ways that we differentiate ourselves from other STEM education solutions. We don't just take a curriculum and throw it at a teacher and say, hey, well, this is great information, just use it in your classroom. We help them understand and develop strategies for teaching the curriculum, and we really work with them on an ongoing basis, and that's that third part, that ongoing support and development of our affiliate teachers. So we create this ongoing relationship with them so that we can make sure that students get the best in the classroom. We have recently begun launching our computer science program. We hope to have a cybersecurity program up and running soon. I'm not sure exactly when that will be, but that's something that has certainly been on our radar for some time, and we see this as a hugely emerging field. For my part with Project Lead the Way, I actually focus on I'm part of what's called the PAR team, the Policy Advocacy and Research team. So I spend most of my day thinking about the state and federal policies that help or hinder growth in these fields so that we can get more of this cybersecurity education, for example, to more students and help make sure that some of the barriers that are out there are being taken down.
Great, thank you. So, and you kind of alluded to this in your last statement, and it certainly is an implied or undercurrent to the theme of the keynote addresses this afternoon, which is there are things that are in the way of growing this pipeline. There are challenges that we have to face. There's a lot of stuff in the literature now, as maybe you know, about affective engagement, about student motivation, about engaging students, making them interested, inspiring them in this kind of field. That's certainly something that Rick talked about with his Day of Cyber. So I wonder if each of you could talk about, from the organizations that you're working with or the initiatives you're part of, what do you see as those challenges to inspiring students, or what needs to be done, or how do we do that, or how are you trying to do that? And just kind of see where it goes from there.
Okay. So I'm going to have to blend both my role in CSTA and what I actually do in my district to answer this question. One of the big hurdles is really just exposure. Students need to know about it, and very few students are going to head off to college and major in something that they have never seen. Right? If they've had no experience in it, they're not going to choose it. So if, a long time ago, in my perspective, America did a big push to get more scientists, and one way we did that was to put science in every school in America had science, which is kind of funny to think that there was a point where every school in America didn't have science, and then there was a point when they did. And we need to do the same thing. And so that's a big part of what CSTA is about with the K-12 standards, and a big push for, you may have heard of an organization called Computing in the Core, trying to get computer science and related fields to be part of the core curriculum in the K-12 environment. And I can talk a little bit about how I can tell you it does work, because at Springfield Township School District, where I work, computer science is a graduation requirement. Every student takes computer science from kindergarten through 9th to 10th grade. And I see on a daily basis that the outcomes for our students are significantly different. The AP computer science class is 50% female, 50% minority. They're there. And then if you stop and ask them, oh, well, how did you end up in an AP computer science class? Or, how did you end up deciding you wanted to be this or do this? And they say, oh, I never would have chosen to be in a computer science class, but once I was there, I found out I'm good at this, and I like this, and I see a future in this. So that's a really big part of what CSTA is really pushing for, and you know, policy is a huge part of that, as there's a lot of, there are a lot of issues at the local level. Education, of course, in America being incredibly local, locally driven, there's just a lot of people that have to be convinced.
I mean, and what do they need to be convinced of?
That well, a big one is that there's room in the curriculum, but another big one is that there's this perception that I don't have anybody who knows how to teach that. How can I put computer science in my K-5 school? You know, how can I make that required? That means I have to train all of those K-5 teachers. So we end up with a kind of a catch-22, chicken and the egg, right? Like, we need this to happen, and really, if we were to just magically be able to say, well, let's say we all started now, well, by the time this crop of kids is in college and choosing careers, that means that next generation of teachers is all going to have the basic knowledge that they need. So, but we have to get it started.
Okay, fine. Yeah, I agree with Tammy a lot. In terms of exposure, it's definitely important to expose students to these concepts at high school, maybe even earlier. We try to get in contact with our Howard County Middle School guidance counselors to start enrollment. Even though my program's for juniors and seniors, we try to get information out while they're in 8th grade as early as we can. And certainly getting females into our program is a big hurdle that we have to overcome. Right now I have one girl in my junior program, and my other teacher has 5 out of 28. Enrollment's been very strong for us. We increased our capacity by four students this year, up from 24 to 28. The primary thing we try to push with our courses is that at the end of each year we give our students a free voucher to take an industry certification test. We provide vouchers for A+, Security+, C-Sense, and the CCNA, and they get to choose one voucher per year, or if it's A+, you get both vouchers to take both tests there. And definitely another thing that we talk about are internship opportunities. In senior year, we provide internships to those that, of course, they have to apply and pass all the background information and course requirements that employers would require from them. And that certainly entices parents, maybe not students right away, but parents know about it, and they'll push their students to try our program. I think that's...
Yeah, why do you find, or why do you think you're having difficulty recruiting young women in the program?
I think it's part of just the stigma of, partially it's the stigma of cybersecurity or IT in general. Mm-hmm. But yeah, the numbers are there once we get past high school, but introducing them to this stuff as early as possible seems to be the key. We try to, like I said, we try to reach middle school at least, because we're finding, at least for the past couple of years, is that even by the time they hit 9th grade, girls are kind of directed away from our types of programs without even any input from us. So we're just trying to sidestep that and get in earlier.
The certification, the vouchers that you talked about, do you find the students themselves respond very favorably to that, or is it more the parents?
I think, yeah, initially it's definitely more the parents.
Okay.
And then as the students get to learn more about the content, they realize how important it is to get certifications, at least for the entry-level jobs.
Right.
So first thing I want to say is that I thought Tammy was spot on with a lot of what she said. She really brought up a number of issues, being the chicken and the egg kind of issue, the fact that we didn't used to have science and now we do. I imagine we're facing a lot of the same kinds of problems that we did back then, although I think our problems are a little bit more pronounced today because we don't necessarily know what to do with computer science. Where does it go programmatically? You mentioned, graduation requirements. That creates a whole lot of angst within schools, within parents. Does it replace a foreign language requirement? Does it replace something else? Does it move out more recess time? Does it move out arts? Is it an elective? Is it required? These are all questions that we really have to answer, and what it all boils down to ultimately is where's money being spent? I think the unspoken part of all this is that there are huge budget battles where we have to defend and make a case, a justification for why computer science and cybersecurity education is important enough to teach in our classrooms. Eventually, we have to get to the point where we don't have to make that justification. People have to make a justification as to why it's not taught in our classrooms. And I don't think we're that far off from that being the case. But I do think that we still face some other hurdles as well. Teachers, I think, in quantity and within policy level, I think we do have some major issues as far as that goes. Computer science teachers, I think maybe we do have the numbers, but maybe they're not geographically located as evenly enough as they need to be, because in the states I work in, we have phenomenal problems finding teachers in rural and very urban settings to teach a lot of these classes. And I'd point to Wisconsin as one state where I believe there's something maybe 4 dozen schools statewide that have computer science course that's offered, and that's entirely due to the fact that they can't find teachers qualified to run it. Then there's that part, qualified to run the course. We don't necessarily know what the qualification should be for a computer science teacher, legally speaking. Like, we know to teach science you should have a degree in that, but to teach a computer science course, is it an IT degree? Is it a computer engineering degree? Is it, there's a lot of different things that go around with that. Does a professional development certification help get you there? Are math and science teachers qualified to teach computer science? There are a lot of teacher licensure problems that we have to overcome, and we're still at the beginning phases of figuring out those questions. Only a few states nationwide really have what I would call a mature policy on that issue. And then, getting back to the funding aspect of it, is it a career technical education course? Well, if it is, does it fit into a program of study, which all courses need to be a part of? If it doesn't, do we have to create a whole new program of study? Are there enough courses to justify that? If there's not, do we wedge it into another one? Which, in some cases, it's fine, but then we run into problems like what we're having in Ohio, where we've wedged courses into programs of study that don't fit, and now they're taking end-of-pathway assessments that don't test student knowledge on anything that they've actually learned. So we have a lot of problems that we do need to figure out in the policy space before we expand access to computer science and cybersecurity nationwide. But I think that there is a phenomenal momentum. It's very easy to lose perspective, but we've come a long way in a very short period of time in growing this field of study in the K-12 space. So it's very exciting to be a part of that, and I think that we'll solve these problems, but it's going to take a little bit longer than maybe we have the patience for.
It sounds like all of you have identified a blend of cultural, political, social challenges, barriers, hurdles that need to be addressed, ranging from the curriculum to stereotype threat issues and all that kind of stuff. Do you think focusing or introducing elements of cybersecurity, do you think that might have the opportunity to move the needle on some of these issues, because it might make the subject matter more germane or vital, given some of the things that we've talked about already at this conference? Do you think that, I know that probably the way there's a lot of, like you said, problem-based kind of stuff.
Activity and project-based learning, yeah.
So you can really, obviously cybersecurity, focusing on that as a problem or a project can provide a very nice hook to get students engaged. I mean, as your organizations or your initiatives move to integrate cybersecurity, I know that you're in various stages of that, do you see that that might actually help the cause of addressing some of these big issues that might stymie the kind of instruction that can happen in our high schools to provide the nation with the kind of pipeline that it needs to defend the infrastructure. Any of you can jump in on that. It's a big question, I know.
Yeah, I think I think it's important to introduce more real world experience to the programs. I mentioned earlier that I get juniors for an hour and then seniors for between 1 and 3 hours. If my seniors haven't taken a computer science course by the time they get to my senior level program, half their course schedule is my class every other day. So sometimes, depending on the school they come from, computer science is a schedule conflict for them, and they don't get to take computer science. When really, it would be best if they took computer science with my course also. So I guess providing more industry level real world scenarios to at least my senior level program will be helpful in providing a more comprehensive education. And also we also try to get as many speakers from the industry as possible. Just recently we connected with the Cisco Talos group out of Columbia, and there's a very there's a woman on that group that is very interested in providing support to our program to get the few girls that we have in the program now, but get even more to get into cybersecurity. So she's very, her name is, of course, I shouldn't mention it if I can't remember it.
It'll come to you.
Sorry.
I would have said that in the, and I'm going to discuss mainly lower education because I think these two gentlemen can really address the high school stuff. But for, when you think of K-8 education and how difficult it is to get computer science or cybersecurity into those levels, I would have said that an important aspect of this would be getting your parents on board, getting your parents to go to school board meetings and talk to the principal and say, my child needs to be learning this in school, this needs to be part of the core curriculum. Just a few weeks ago, however, Google released the results of a Gallup poll that makes it pretty clear that we won that fight. Something like 94% of parents think this is very, very important for their child to be learning in school. But some vanishingly small number, much less than 10% of school administrators thinks that parents think it's important. So we still have a problem there. There's still a disconnect, right? We've convinced parents, adults in our society believe this is important for our students to learn. But somehow the message isn't getting through to school administrators. So that would be one thing that I would say.
And do you think that part of the reason why parents and other adults recognize the importance is because the visibility of some of these attacks that have happened, so they can it's very clear there's a need for our children.
Yeah, I think if nothing else, every time one of these hits the news, it's great fodder for classroom discussion, and every time, so try to pull a little silver lining out of this, right? Every time something like a big attack hits the news, it gives a teacher an opportunity to expose students to the idea of there are careers that, to fight this. You can kind of bring up forensics and security as careers. But it also, every time that does happen, it might be an opportunity to, drop a line to your local school administrator and say, everyone in America should know something about being safe, And even if it starts with elementary school and teaching kids about a good password and why you don't share it. That's a lesson that's very doable in every elementary school in our country. You don't need anything special to teach that lesson.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the K-8 space is particularly important for engaging students. And actually, I had this conversation with someone in the hallway this morning. But mentioning, when do you have to? Can we be inclusive about computer science and about? We were talking specifically about advanced algebra, But, you know, inclusively speaking, yeah, we can get someone that is in 12th grade up to that level and capable of doing what it takes to become an engineer. But it's a lot easier to get them on the bus while it's at the station than it is to get it when it's 5 miles down the road. Can we still get that person on the bus? Yeah, but it becomes a lot harder to do it, and there's a lot more hurdles involved. That person is probably going to have to take extra classes. They're probably going to have to work while they are getting their education. And there are a lot of societal, family barriers that get in the way, and the odds of success come down dramatically. If we can get them on the bus in kindergarten, first grade, second grade, third grade, that's when they're really ready to learn. They're starting to form their attitudes and their comfortability with this kind of subject matter. And I think that it's vitally important that we do give kids these opportunities early in their career, just if for no other reason than to get familiar with it, to be aware that it exists, and to get some interest level going early.
Well, I have other questions, but I'm mindful that you guys probably have them too, and I don't want to monopolize all the time. So, if we hit a lull, I'll fire one of my questions off. But yeah.
Got a question for
Would
you.
you please introduce yourself too, when you ask a question?
Carlos Garcia, Capital Area Career Center High School instructor in Michigan. I teach 11th and 12th career technical, cybersecurity. Have you thought about using the college students to help the high school student or the high school instructors? Giving the college students the opportunity to come in with cybersecurity stuff, and then trickling that down as far as the high school students going into the middle students, and the middle students going into the K-6.
Yes, so in my introduction, I
I'm
had
sorry.
mentioned that one of the things that CSTA supports, and one of the things we work pretty hard for, is networking, and especially vertical networking, that we try to connect the K-8 teacher to the middle school teacher, to the high school teacher, to the college, you know, and I've actually been involved in an initiative with Drexel University with a vertical pipeline where we go back, and the college students come back to the high school, and our high school students go down to the middle school. So we do it in both directions, and it is it's very powerful for the students.
Yeah, I mean, I can't speak to any one of our schools to whether or not they implement those programs, but what I would say about that is, you know, generally speaking, there have been some studies that suggest that younger students take their cues on the material that's being taught to them from their teacher. So if their teacher comes in apprehensive or uncomfortable with what they're teaching, the student will then absorb those kind of anxieties, and it will bear itself out throughout the student's career and life. I think the more that we can bring in positive role models, people that are confident and comfortable with that source material, so that they don't take that fear away and they take away something else that, oh, this isn't such a big deal, we can do this. I think the more that we can provide that to our young students, the better off we will be.
Okay, my name is Walter Zingad, I'm with Fairfax, Mount Vernon High School, new teacher there, taught for a number of years in Detroit Public Schools, technology teacher there. So what I'm amazed, I'm thinking, reflecting in my mind, when I was in high school, the big push was taking typewriting. And now, you know, and it wasn't hard to get people into the typewriting class. You often saw more young ladies in typewriting. You might have seen a few boys. Now here you see, fast forward 30 years, and I don't want to date myself, now you see more boys in certain classes than you see girls. Just like, I think it was you said you had 2 girls and 5 girls in another class. Well, I'm experiencing the same. I have 2 girls in an A+ class and full of a class of 29 students and more boys. And I'm thinking, wow, this is you know, how now you get more boys and you do this. And it's just amazing how the conversation now is how we get more young ladies, how we get more students involved, when we didn't have to have this kind of dialogue years and years ago. Okay, now, the big problem is, you know, it's money. Okay, so if you're talking about training and you're talking about that, then schools may have to start getting creative, keeping the professional development in-house to make sure that people have these skills. Because you made a good point. If you have someone working full-time and they have obligations outside of school, who wants to leave the campus, go pick up kids, go do this, then go take a class? not many people want to do that. So schools may have to start, and I think schools are doing a good job of beginning to acknowledge that you may have to offer some training, some certification training tied to, certification, renewing certification in that respect, to get those people that you may need to address the shortage of teachers in those areas.
Now, I think you hit on some excellent points there, and you brought up the money issue, and part of it, money is always there. It's about priorities and prioritization, and it's about politics, and I don't mean Democrat versus Republican politics, but the internal politics that every organization and school has. On some level, you can't keep growing courses without taking away something else, without adding a whole lot of money on the other side. And I've been around education long enough to know that that whole lot of money isn't coming in anytime soon, unfortunately. I wish it would, but it's not. So it becomes down to, we need to prioritize. What do we prioritize in our education system, in our schools? What do we prioritize for our children? And I think that this is something that we do need to prioritize. Just the way that we didn't prioritize science 50, 60 years ago, we do need to start prioritizing this.
Let me ask you a question, man. We said funding is an issue, but we constantly hear about all this STEM funding, the STEAM funding. So my question is, where's the funding at? Where's the money at? Because you constantly hear about all this program, and we have all this funding from the president, from all the different organizations. We have STEM funding. But then the question is always asked, who's getting this funding then? Because the more and more conversations, the more and more workshops I go to, it seems like no one is getting the funding.
Well, I can't speak to any state specific. The states that I work in, I certainly haven't seen that waterfall funding come through. But federally speaking, I can tell you that there have been I3 grants that have come through. There have been certain initiatives, but when you diffuse, even if let's say it's something huge like $1 billion, diffuse that over 50 states and 4 million or so teachers and then 30 million students, it becomes a couple of dollars a piece. So even if it sounds like a big number, you wonder where it all went to, just like you did. And the fact of the matter is, it just wasn't enough.
Yeah, but
I'm sorry.
but the question too, though, is how do you bridge this gap? How do you create a pipeline from elementary to middle to high school to college? Because we've been saying this for years now. We got more individuals, we got more kids doing STEM now than what, based on numbers.
Yeah.
And based on what I've seen. But at the same time, you got a lot of great programs out here. You got a lot of great schools out here. So if they got just a small percentage of the funding, how would that picture look?
Can you say that last part again?
I said, if the schools that's actually putting piecemealing a STEM program, taking funds from here, just like the nonprofit organizations that creating these STEM programs, but they don't have the funding. I said, how would it look? How would it look if these programs actually had funding? Then that number of young people, we talk about that cybersecurity, all these jobs. How do we get to all these jobs if there's no funding, if there's no training, no staff development for the individual who's really already working?
That's the case I make every day, but.
Yeah, but.
I was really hoping that Dominic was going to say that all that money for STEM was going to engineering, because it certainly isn't going to computer science. If it's not going to engineering, I can tell you it's going to the programs that are already in every school, science and math. STEM is the money for STEM is being pulled to those two ends,
Yeah.
because it's what's already there. It's much harder to get engineering into a school, it's much harder to get computer science in. We already have a science program, let's, put more money there and get, it's just easier. So it ends up being, the money ends up going to both ends.
So are you telling me this? Because this is what I truly think. A lot of programs that already exist, they have math and science programs, they're getting all the STEM money, but they really not, but they don't have STEM programs. You see what I'm saying? Because
I
STEM is,
think if you did some
STEM is
research.
STEM
They've
is
got
a
SM
teaching across the
programs.
SM programs.
They don't have
Right.
the T and the E.
Yeah.
Everybody, right, but
Yeah.
that's not STEM.
No,
Right.
No.
no, I agree with you completely on that. And, you know, I can't speak that, I can't say that they aren't getting all the money. I know that a lot of good programs that do include the full STEM are getting funded. I would agree with you that, you know, not just engineering, but computer science isn't getting enough of that attention right now. And, you know, again, it's because I think that we are still at the beginning stages of it, and people don't quite know what to do with computer science just yet. I think we're getting there, but it's gonna be a fight. Like, it's, you know, those engineering programs, the core science and the core math aren't going away, and in so many people's minds, in the legislators that I speak to, and the administrators and that I speak to, so often they think more STEM education means just more science and more math. That means more STEM, and that means we're gonna do more of the same, and it's gonna make it better.
I know
And it
there's
is.
a question back here, I just want to, or a couple actually, but just to follow up real quickly. I know that you've already done this in your school, Tammy, but could part of the solution be requiring, you know, increasing the requirements, whether it's I think it's mentioned actually in the program, some kind of test, you know, that all students have to be able to pass to graduate, or to, you know, to be on the college track or something like that, or would it, there's some kind of class, you know, that, and of course it would be a state by state or probably county by county, district by district.
District by district.
Struggle, but is that part of what would need to happen for those dollars to flow from these other better, more established areas and disciplines?
And then one of the things that is required in order for us to help the money flow is we need more research. And it's part of the issue of computer science, you know, being, when compared to math, relatively young. You know, computer science is very young from the research perspective. We need more educational research that actually shows what the outcomes are for students who have, you know, like what is computer science, what does it do for a student? And we hear sometimes that in legislation, they want to know that where the money is going to get the results that they want, and that they're not just throwing money into the wind, hoping if I throw a couple $1 billion at this, that we're gonna have change. They wanna see research, and we need to have more people doing that research.
Lay out money without knowing what results they're gonna get. I think we all remember back to, you know, the 2012 elections where we heard about Solyndra day in and day out. It was a risk on a new economy in alternative energy. It was a risk on a new company. It was laid out. It failed colossally. But that's what happens when you devote something new. No legislator wants to deal with that. So they want the research up front, so it becomes a chicken and the egg kind of thing once again, where you can only get funding for research for things that are established, but to get established you need more research. And you know, I think what we will see is more pioneering kinds of schools and districts. We are seeing that. I mean, you guys are obviously here. There are obviously these programs exist. You know, they always say the first one through the wall gets the splinters. Well, you guys are the first ones through the wall. And it's a rough ride to get going, but I think we will get there.
So, I'm sorry, but my call to you guys, if you're actually, you know, teaching cybersecurity, is please publish results, present at conferences. We need the body of research, and it's got to start somewhere. And it really, in my mind, it starts with the classroom teacher standing up at a conference and saying, "These are the results that I had."
And I would say that, you know, we need to harness some of those Google poll results where if parents really do believe in this, you got to tell parents where to go with those beliefs. You know, tell them to call the superintendent, tell them to go to a school board meeting, tell them to start, if parents start demanding this, we're going to see an awful lot of changes in the school district.
There's a question back there.
So Tammy, it sounds like your district has it together. So what is it that your district has done that we could emulate that would, you know, eighth
Well,
grade level especially?
at Springfield, we adopted the K-12 standards, the CSTA K-12 standards back in 2005 or 6. It's been a while. So it's been a long time, but before we even adopted the standards, and we've adopted the standards, so we have computer science, kindergarten through 9th or 10th grade is required, and then we have elective courses that come on after that. We were a technologically rich district initially anyway, right? But really, and one of the easy entry level changes that districts can make, if you are devoting any time at all to Microsoft Office, if you're devoting time to literacy, see if maybe you can reduce the amount of time you're spending on how to use a browser, and get into what makes the internet work. You have the kids, you have the teachers, you have the time, and I'll bet you have the computers in your classrooms, right? So it's really just what you're teaching that has to change, and that makes a significant difference.
This question,
You've talked about the students and the administrators and the teachers and, all of that area and the government. What I think is lacking is the colleges. So much of what a child's decision to take in high school is based on what the college will accept or what the college deems valuable. And there is a lack of secondary or college educators, professors, and deans showing up at these kind of conferences. Is there a promotion for this kind of outreach to say to colleges, demand computer science of your incoming students, and bam, half your problem goes away? So I was wondering if you had any.
I've actually asked universities to do just that, to please add in on the page that says this is what we're, what we look for, and they won't do it. And they tell me very clearly, they're like, oh, no way, there's no way I'm gonna do that.
Right.
And they'll tell me because not every school has it. Not every school has it. We can't say we're gonna give preference to a student who has taken this kind of course if not every school can offer that kind of course. So again, it's like we keep coming back to this chicken egg problem that I don't know the solution.
I mean, I can say for Project Lead the Way's programs, a lot of our, or I should say all of our professional development is done through affiliate universities at the local and state level. So we do foster that kind of relationship for our programs, and I think to some extent that is going to help the broader community as far, not just Project Lead the Way's programs, but for every computer science program to help get you through that wall. And I should also mention that we've recently announced a partnership with the College Board where we've started these pathways with our Project Lead the Way and Advanced Placement combined together as part of the pathway. And I think we started out with our AP Computer Science PLTW courses, and we're going to slowly expand that roster out to our full curriculum over the years to come, but that's something that I think can help as well, where we don't necessarily have to get over that hurdle because everyone accepts AP. Everyone knows what that, or I shouldn't say everyone, most people accept AP for credit, so maybe not on the entrance requirements part it'll make that big of a difference, but I think that it will help, at least as far as the dual credit is concerned.
So I'm from NSA, and my name is Alice Schaefer, and I work with the National Centers of Academic Excellence in Cyber Defense Education. And I can say there's about 180 plus colleges and universities out there that this is on their radar, the K through 12. There's another presentation going on right now in room Deck C, wherever that is. The Gen Cyber Camps, that's an NSA, NSA, NSF partnered program. This summer we did 40 camps, summer camps. Some were focused on teacher development, some were focused on K through 12 students. I was fortunate enough, I got to team lead for a teacher and a student camp at St. Cloud State University in Minnesota, and I can tell you it was a phenomenal success. Teachers were given basic concepts for cybersecurity, cyber defense. They were given a chance to create curriculum to take back, modules, little mini modules to take back to their classroom. Students got hands-on activities, labs, hacking, all kinds of stuff for a whole week. Also, currently at this time, Cal State San Bernardino, Dr. Tony Colson is probably talking about his Gen Cyber summer camp, where he had, I believe, 200 Girl Scouts. They came to campus. They all learned how to hack and control drones. They did a, the kind of like survivor ropes course, and he tied it into cybersecurity concepts. They all got Raspberry Pis to take home and learn how to program with. One cool thing about these camps is it's free for the attendees. There is no cost. For the teachers, there's sometimes academic credit, the continuing education credits that they're required to have every year. So there are programs out there. We are trying. It's a struggle, and I agree with you. Where is the money? And it's going to the science and the math.
So you have a site where we can get that information?
I believe, my phone's down right, it died, but I believe it's gencyber.gov.
Gen-cyber.
It's okay, thank you.
GEN.
Yeah, GEN.
And to put some perspective, you said about 103 institutions?
No, about 180
180.
plus.
Yeah, that's a great number, and it shows we've come a long way. But there's 7,500 colleges and universities in this country that currently accept federal funding.
Sorry, go ahead.
And it's funny because we get pinged because they say, oh, well, you have 180 schools, how can they all be excellent? Well, it goes back to, one, not all 75,000, you said?
7,500.
7,500 schools teach cybersecurity. And then it's like, but each one sometimes has their own little niche that they teach. Some might be more hacking, some might be more in healthcare, some might be more in business. So to lump them all together is not fair, but our goal is to have at least one in every state, so.
I think we should have kids threaten them all with DDoS attacks until.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I honestly, so I've been a part of, for the last 7 years, a cyber education initiative that's been multidisciplinary and integrative and working with colleges and high school teachers. And I will say that, in my experience at least, a lot of it's social and cultural in the sense that folks that didn't choose STEM as a field or a career path, there's a lot of emotional baggage that's often associated with math. Even I know plenty of English professors that, oh, I don't do math. And so that creates a distance with cyber and those kinds of, and I don't think it's often conscious, but there's a, and it's amazing being part of this, when they get reacquainted with it, it's powerful. As part of this initiative, I've seen literature professors who have been strong advocates for students to take computer science classes at the university level because they begin to see that many of the disciplines are actually about similar things. It's about logic, problem solving, pattern recognition, but somehow that emotional affective thing, well, I'm not a STEM person, I'm not a math person, that's powerful, and it stays with college families, it stays with the high school teachers, right? I mean, I'm sure many of your colleagues are like, math, that's not me, or, your science,
And to put some numbers on, and I just pulled it up for Wisconsin because I've been doing some work there. For elementary and early childhood teachers, 0% of Wisconsin teachers have a mathematics degree. Just 0.28 have a natural sciences degree. That's for elementary and early childhood courses. So we have, you talk about, you hear a lot of, well, math just isn't for me.
Yeah.
That's who we're putting in front of their youngest students.
Right.
That's right. That's right, and the tracking, as you all know, much better than I do, but it happens so early now for kids, in terms of, and they begin to identify, I'm good at math, I'm not good at math, and it can, in some ways, be the roll of the dice which teacher they had, that really was able to, if they were able to inspire them to do it or not, so I think that can be a real challenge too. Well, I think we're out of time, I know we've got others, I'm sorry, we have one more question? Someone's patient and I missed it, okay. Yes.
That's okay, this is very quick.
Yes, that's fine.
My name is Rick Robb, I'm an administrator at a career academy high school in Howard County, Maryland. Would we agree that in the cybersecurity world that there are other things that can be done for the employee, if you will, that is not centered around math? We would agree with that. Okay. However, the message that constantly keeps going out is that if we don't have math in the emphasis, then you can't be cybersecurity. And I think that's a real danger, because in part it's excluding a lot of different groups, demographics if you will, by simply saying it is a math-only environment. I've been a programmer for 15 years, got into it, I can't do algebra to save my life. But I was a programmer and I was able to do it. And all the other things involved in computer science I was a part of, but I sucked at math, I'll tell you that right now. Okay, but I think that there's a real danger in where is the funding going, is going to science and math. I think that there needs to be an emphasis in the vocation of cybersecurity as an inclusive, not only from our industry leaders who are talking about it, but also from our educators as well. And I don't know if that's a valid point, but at least
Well,
it's
it's probably
six
like
of them
computer science, the discipline is constructed, right? Is that a fair way to, maybe?
Well, you know, it is interesting. Computer science as a phrase can be problematic for communicating, because there are people who, when you say computer science, they get a very specific thought in their head. And we need to do something more like how, when you think of language arts, there's this whole continuum, right? Language arts in kindergarten is very different from language arts in 12th grade. And I would say the same is true for computer science. And you do not need to have survived and passed calculus to learn how to program a computer. And it should never be put in front of kids as if that is the order. You know, programming instead of calculus is perfectly valid. There's nothing wrong with it, and there is definitely some cultural, societal messages that everybody gets saying that that's not the case. But we have to counteract that.
I just want to be really quick. I think that we've forgotten the reason why we teach advanced mathematics to students who don't intend to go into a math-based field, and it's because of the thought process that you learn through mathematics. It's the logic, it's not the math. And to your point, we can teach that kind of logic and thought process through computer science in other ways. It doesn't have to be calculus, it doesn't have to be algebra 2.
You know, it's funny,
It's
this is kind of, and this is it ties in somehow, but I've heard from several law school admissions officers that one of the biggest predictors of success in law school, SAT math scores. Not verbal.
Well, I can tell you from my own personal experience that it is about if-then kinds of statements. It's
It's
about,
logic.
it is logic.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you so much, and I know you got 1 minute. Okay.